The world is the same, so why am I the only one having a hard time? The answer is simple. Because the moment I change myself, not the world, everything changes. Today, I'll reveal the secret to creating a new reality. Simply by changing your perspective. The most effective way to achieve a wish is to first accept the feeling that the wish has already been granted, and then relax and enter a slightly sleepy state. And finally, if thanking a higher power for the fulfillment of a wish, say, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." It is to repeat short sentences like this. After the lecture, many people say that their wishes have come true. In fact, 2 weeks ago, when I came down from the podium after my lecture and greeted the students, at least 35 of the 135 students confessed that their wishes had already been granted. This is just a rule that they applied themselves and got the results. You too don't need to do anything else other than apply this rule. Close your eyes, don't move your body, and enter a sleep-like state. There, you must experience acting as if you were in real life, taking on the role you want. Don't think you'll do it later. Somewhere else, feel like you're experiencing it here and now. At such times, the great being of the mind uses greater power to bring your wishes into reality. During this process, you may wonder, if I get what I want, won't someone else be disadvantaged? But don't worry, because you are already being tuned on a higher level in ways you don't know about. Therefore, we must let go of unnecessary worries. From now on, a long period of silence will follow. Close your eyes. Now you feel like you've already become what you want to be, and you're lost in that mental image. If you get so immersed in it, you'll forget you're even sitting in this room. And when you open your eyes, you might be surprised to find that you were in this room just a moment ago. What you feel is true. What you had in your imagination at that moment is your reality. Don't share it with anyone. Don't be afraid that it might show up. And don't rely on others for courage. The Father's work is most perfectly handled by the Father. So you just have to keep the faith. Hold on to your thoughts, and don't let them control you. Whatever you fill your mind with at this moment will be reflected outwardly. Walk according to the image of your heart. That will not waver, no matter what others say. There is nothing that is not yours at this very moment. Everything already exists within you. Creation is already finished. If you go deep into the state you want and feel it as if it were real, that's all that will attract fulfillment. When you maintain a firm image in your mind, all the powers of heaven and earth move to achieve it. If you have a wish, make sure to keep it in one sentence. It should be simple. For example, that's awesome. Thank you, I did it. It's a short sentence, like this. Don't make it more than 3 words. Just enough to indicate that what you want has already been achieved. When planning an event, choose one that will naturally follow your wish. That becomes your reality. The image I accept as fact will transform and appear in the world, and the image of the conviction I hold will eventually be revealed as reality. So, when what I accept as fact manifests as change in the world, the prophecy is fulfilled. If you already know what you want, it is already achieved. If I walk out with that certainty, I can't help but be like that. That is why the old self of the past must face death. Even if you ask people, where is that old self buried? No one will know. Since he is already completely dead, his descendants cannot find any trace of him. There will be people here who will have completely transformed their appearance to the world, so that even their close friends won't recognize them. I too used to be a dancer who danced on stage. For 10 years, he performed on Broadway, in vaudeville, and in nightclubs. At that time, I couldn't imagine being away from my friends, and I always hung out with them after the performance. But now I have nothing in common with my old friends. Even when we meet on the street, we ignore each other, and when we meet, we have nothing to say, leaving only a cold encounter. This is because my old life is already there. Even if I meet my old friends, I can't talk about old times. Yet, there are still people who are stuck in their past lives and are becoming increasingly poor. They love to tell stories from the past. Instead of looking at ourselves in a new way, we cling to our old ways and breathe a new life into them. But if you recognize that your current state is not what you want, those who know the law of change will accept your desired state as fact and walk forward with the confidence that it has already been achieved. The old self dies in the new being. Everything connected to past ideas will die. No part of the old self can enter the new self. Just as new wine cannot be stored in old wineskins, to become a new being, one must be completely renewed. You don't need anyone's help to accept that you are already who you want to be. You don't need anyone's help to bury your past self. Let the dead bury their own dead. Don't look back. He who puts his hand to the plow and looks back will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. Don't ask yourself how. It will be done. It doesn't matter if reason says it's impossible. It doesn't matter if the circumstances around you seem impossible. The important thing is to maintain faith in your new self. If you do that, in the future, no one will find any trace of your old self. That concludes the 4 stories I told you today. Now all that's left is for you to put these into practice in your daily life. Even if you are sitting on a hard chair, you can use your imagination to make it feel like the most comfortable chair. Consciousness is the source of all things and the only reality. Therefore, whatever you want, must begin with consciousness. People have a habit of underestimating the importance of simple things. However, even if reason and senses reject something as factual, in order to accept it as factual in the mind, one must enter a state similar to sleep. This is a simple but very important principle. The formula for changing the future is available for anyone to try. First, clarify your needs. Second, think about what happened after your desired goal was achieved. The event should be a scene that shows what you have accomplished, and you should be the main character in it. You must remain motionless and enter a sleep-like state, actually engaging in the imagined action. You have to feel like you're actually doing the action, not just watching the scene. When you do that, the feeling of the image in your mind becomes real. The imagined scene should represent what you want to achieve. For example, if you want to get a promotion, think of a scene where you are being congratulated. That scene is an incident that inevitably follows a promotion. Imagine that scene and fall into a sleepy state. Consciousness is a state of effortless concentration. In other words, it must be maintained attentive without effort. At that time, you should think about shaking hands or holding hands with a friend and feel the actual sensation of your hands and have a conversation that fits the feeling of being promoted. By doing so, future events are brought into the present and experienced here and now. Feeling what you're doing here and now and projecting that action onto a movie screen is the difference between success and failure. For example, in the scene of climbing a ladder, you should not simply imagine it, but actually feel the sensation of putting your foot on it. Repeat, within a specific range, the actions that represent the fulfillment of your desires in your heart. You have to keep repeating that image until it feels real. Otherwise, consciousness will wander here and there and be dragged far away from the scene you initially planned. Ultimately, consciousness must be maintained by repeating simple and clear action until they become firmly imprinted as reality. Don't try to force the feeling, but rather feel that your wish has already been fulfilled with minimal effort. Only then will the new self be fully established. All you have to do is accept that you are already who you want to be and move into it. No one can go in ahead of you. The power to say, I am, belongs only to you and no one else's. You have now transcended the senses' rejection of existence. Are you confident enough to accept that you already have what you want? Reason and senses will constantly tell you that what you want to be is not true. But if you boldly accept this reality, you can step into the pond yourself and stand up without anyone's help. This is said to happen on the Sabbath. The Sabbath signifies a mystical state of peace that comes when the mind is unshaken and anxiety about the outcome is put aside. The Sabbath is given when we recognize that something has already been accomplished without having to strive to complete it. Don't pay attention to what people say. Just walk away, thinking you've already become what you want to be. Then you will enter the Sabbath. without lifting a finger. Don't worry about which path the outcome will take. Just be aware that it has already happened. If you perceive yourself as free, secure, and happy, you will become so. Without effort, if you maintain this state of consciousness, you will enter the Sabbath and eventually get up and walk. In November 1933, I said goodbye to my parents in New York as they left for Barbados. At the time, I had been away from Barbados for 12 years, but I had no desire to return home because I was ashamed of myself for not being successful. And it was painful to see my family members succeed. Even though I lived in the US for 12 years, I was still poor, and the money I earned from work was gone by the next month. By everyone's standards, and by my own, I was a failure. Even when I said goodbye to my parents, I had no intention of returning to Barbados. But the moment I returned to the streets of New York, the thought of going home suddenly took hold. At that time, I had no job, no money, and was living in a small room on 74th Street. I went to Abdullah and said this, "Abdullah, I feel really strange. For the first time in 12 years, I wanted to go to Barbados." He answered, "Neville, if you want to go, you're already there." It was such a strange thing to say. I was definitely on 70th Street in New York, and he assured me I was in Barbados. What does that mean? I already went? Do you really want to go? Yes. Then you are already there. When you walk out this door, you are no longer walking down 70th Street. You're walking down a street lined with palm trees and coconut trees. You're already in Barbados. Don't ask how you'll get there. You're already there. As I left his house, I kept repeating, "I'm in Barbados." The reality was that I still had no money, no job, and no clothes, but my consciousness was in Barbados. After 2 weeks, he asked me, "Are you still in Barbados?" "Yes, I am completely in Barbados." He was not a wealthy man, but he was determined. 2 weeks later, things hadn't improved, but I was still in Barbados, in my consciousness. On December 3, he said, "You are in Barbados." I wanted to arrive before Christmas, but the last ship was scheduled to leave on December 6th. I had no money and no place to go, but I kept my faith. On the morning of December 7th, a letter arrived at my door. Inside the letter was a letter from my brother Victor, along with 달러50. My brother said, "Neville, you must come this time. Send money so the whole family can get together for Christmas. If you drink alcohol, you can use the bar, but it is not necessary. Instead, go to the shipping company and show them this letter, and they will issue you a ticket. Use the 달러50 to buy the things you need. I'll cover any additional expenses." I took the letter and went to Furnace Wheat Shipping Company. There, the employee read the letter and said, "Unfortunately, there are no seats available on the ship on December 6th. There's only third class between New York Harbor and St. Thomas, but there are passengers getting off at St. Thomas, so you should be able to get first class there. I told Abdullah the news. Oh my gosh, this is truly a dream come true. He said, did you say you were going to travel third class? What did I tell you? You are in Barbados, sitting in first class. You have arrived there on December 6th. I actually sat in first class. Just before departure, someone cancelled their reservation and the seat was given to me. Enjoy the thought that what you want has already come true and become one with it. Accept the fact that you have already become what you want to be and walk away. If you enjoy it and keep faith in your diet, it will show up in the world. That's exactly what you will be like in this world. When I returned to New York in 1934, after a very happy 3 months in Barbados, I started drinking, smoking, and other things I hadn't done for many years. I remembered what Abdullah had said to me, Neville, after you prove this law, you will return to normal. You will walk out of the grave, out of the dead past you thought was sacred. Neville, everything you're doing now, thinking you're getting better, is completely useless. I walked the earth again as a completely different person. From that day on, I began to live a more abundant life. To be honest, I can't say that I've always been successful, but I can say that every day I am moving forward and striving to become the person I want to be in this world. Stop judging and don't accept what your reason and senses tell you. Then, if you have faith in your new diet, you will be able to manifest the ideals you believe into the world. If you were to ask me to name the place in the world most different from Barbados, it would be New York. The tallest building in Barbados is 3 stories high, and the streets are lined with palm and coconut trees. But if you want to see trees in New York, you have to go to a park. Yet, I had to walk the streets of New York as if I were walking the streets of Barbados. I actually walked as if I was walking the streets of Barbados. In my imagination, I could smell the scent of the coconut-lined streets. I began to picture in my mind's eye the environments I might realistically encounter if I were in Barbados. While I was still believing in this fantasy, someone canceled their trip, and I got the ticket. I had a dreamy 3 months and returned home in first class. I didn't spend a single penny of my own money, just a little bit of money in my pocket as a gift. If I had paid all these costs, it would have cost over $3,000. But I didn't spend any money out of my pocket. I have a path that you don't know about, my ways you cannot find, my dimensionally greater inner self took my imagination as a command, influenced my brother's actions to write a letter, and influenced someone's actions to cancel a first-class trip. My great inner self has arranged everything necessary to realize the vision I had become one with. It made me feel like I was in Barbados. Let's fall asleep as if it were there. The actions of everyone around me were in line with what I had imagined. I didn't have to go to the shipping company and beg for a ticket or ask for money. Everything flowed naturally. Abdullah said, "You are in Barbados. Neville, wherever that is, you want to go. If you live as if you were there, it will happen. Everyone has two views of the world. It doesn't matter who you are. Every child born from a woman, regardless of race, nationality, or creed, has two perspectives on the world. Either you are a practical person who considers the gifts of God's Spirit foolish and refuses to accept them, or you are a spiritual person who perceives the wider world as something that actually exists now. You are the ones who perceive beyond the limits of the senses. You are either a person who is paralyzed in the 5 stages and waiting for someone to push you along, or you are a person who waits for others to build a bridge, but you yourself command yourself to get up and walk. You are not people hiding behind graves in the cemetery, begging to be washed away, for fear of your prejudices being washed away, but people who have cast them off and become free. The things people find most difficult to let go of are superstitions and preconception. But when they are stripped away and set free, your heart automatically heals. So you become the prepared soil in which the seeds of hope can take root and grow into manifestation. The child who is about to be born in your heart right now is the wish you have right now. The wish I have now is like a baby. When you take the attitude that you want your child to be who he or she is, the shaking will stop and the child will come alive. When you feel that you have become what you want to be, when you are satisfied in your imagination, you are no longer a wavering being. But to people, your hope may seem dead. When they see you not telling them your secret wishes, they may think you have lost hope. But in fact, you have already obtained your wish. She didn't die. She just fell asleep. I go to wake her up. In other words, walk out with the belief that you have already become what you want to be, just as a sleeping woman is gently awakened. The image you desire will soon come to life and naturally emerge in your daily life. You are walking in the belief that you are who you want to be and the ideal you are. Giving that belief to will surely take shape in the world. Things that are not pay attention to disappear from the world. So you must pay careful attention to your consciousness. When you have the idea that what you want is already there, that idea breathes life into you and manifests itself into the world. When you pay attention to your desires, they can turn obstacles into mountains. Or, conversely, when you pay attention to your desires, they can become seeds of fulfillment. Today, we have to talk about 3-dimensional vision and 4-dimensional vision. Ancient teachers have taught that all people have these 2 focuses in their minds. Enjoy the thought that what you want has already come true and become one with it. Accept the fact that you have already become what you want to be and walk away. If you enjoy it and keep faith in your diet, it will show up in the world. That's exactly what you will be like in this world. When you pay attention to your desires, they can turn obstacles into mountains. Or, conversely, when you pay attention to your desires, they can become seeds of fulfillment. Today, we have to talk about three-dimensional vision and four-dimensional vision. Ancient teachers have taught that all people have these two focuses in their minds. If you look closely, you'll see that a minimum amount of stimulus is needed for a reaction to occur, and without that stimulus, no reaction will occur. No matter how much time passes, the most fundamental thing in the world today is said to be action. That is, energy that increases with time. The Bible sets the action at 3 days. The period refers to the 3 days during which the world's response arrives. If you accept that, you have become what you want to be. Maintain faith in it and walk out of that belief as if you have become that person. The longest time it takes for it to work is 3 days. If there's something you really want in this world, imagine it coming true and experience what you would experience in reality. And close your ears and eyes to everything that rejects the world you have accepted as fact in your imagination. If I do this before I leave Los Angeles, you will be able to come to me and say that you've made what was previously only a wish into reality. It is my joy to share with you this knowledge that could save a child who appears to be dead. This girl is not really dead. She is simply asleep. When you feed a child, that child becomes a living entity, resurrected in your world. These lectures exist to teach you the laws of consciousness, the laws of your existence. You are the law. They just don't know the law is working. Until now, you have given life to things that did not want it by nourishing them. Test this theory yourself with the words I've given you. If this principle doesn't work, you shouldn't use it as a consolation prize. If it's not true, you should completely discard it. I know it's true. You won't know until you prove it's true. Or not. Too many people accept these theories, but are afraid to test them themselves, because they are afraid that they might fail. So, where do we stand? Because we don't want to know whether the theories are really true or false. We hesitate and don't have the courage to test them. Don't fool yourself. Don't think it's wise to think that way. prove that this law is true or not. I know that if you try to prove that it is not true, you will find that it is true. Before we enter into the time of silence, let me briefly explain the techniques of prayer again. When applying this rule, there are two ways to do it. Everyone here must know exactly what they want. Hold your imaginary hand with the imaginary hand of a friend standing in front of you and feel the promises, even if the imaginary body is active. The actual body must remain motionless. What Neville Goddard taught us as a way to achieve our wishes is called nivelling. This nivel basically tells us two ways. One is to use our imagination and imagine our wish coming true right now. Another way is to maintain faith by feeling like your wish has come true in your daily life and saying to yourself, "Thank you," or "That's amazing. I'm not young either." In reality, we no longer believe in legends or magic, but simply by using the teachings that imagination creates reality, and that feelings are the secret of imagination. Everything I ever wanted was given to me. When this miraculous event happened, I was unemployed and had no family to rely on. I needed a car to get a job, but my car was so old, I had to take it to a junkyard. I had no clothes, and my bank account was empty. Finding a new job seemed nearly impossible for a 55-year-old woman, and she didn't even have friends to lean on. Still, I trained my imagination by taking the teacher's lectures for almost a year. I started out imagining I already had everything I needed. But because I needed so many things, reality felt like a wall, and I couldn't even sleep because of the worries. Then one day, I remembered the feeling I had heard in class, and the words, "amazing," and decided to put it into practice. I wanted to feel as if it had already happened. At this very moment, I kept repeating, "Amazing. Something miraculous is happening right now," until I fell asleep. I continued to imagine and feel that feeling every night for 2 months. Then, by chance, I met a friend I hadn't seen in a long time. He was on his way to New York, and we became close again. As we talked about New York, a month later, the friend came to my apartment and handed me a check for $2,500 in my name. It was hard to believe, but it was just the beginning. Then another friend I hadn't seen in 25 years showed up and became a hugely wealthy man. He decided to share his great wealth with me. And as a result, I have everything I need, in addition to daily necessities, such as a car, clothes, and a spacious apartment. Sufficient money was paid regularly each month through the lawyer. Best of all, you no longer have to go out and buy everything you need every day. A while ago, I received a letter and a contract. It contained a guarantee that he would receive regular payments for the rest of his life. Those who hinder us are, in fact, those who do not know the laws of our mind. The external world is created as reflected in the state of the mind. Therefore, the only way to achieve perfection is to change yourself. Instead of seeking help from outside, we must change the outside through internal change. Love and hate have the power to bring about magical change. When we harbor feelings of love or hate, the thing we gaze upon in our hearts transforms into a similar form. So, you should think about anything that is lovely and pleasant to hear, because we change into something similar to what we are with. When glory returns, you will be able to say this: I have finished the work you gave me to do. The task is to return from the place where consciousness descended, from where I believed I was a child of man, to the heavenly realm, where I can know that the Father and I are one, that I am a child of God. I know without a doubt that the only task given to man is to fill his own conception of greatness and to maintain it. If I walk as if I have already achieved what I want, I will rise to the point where I accept that as fact. And you will see this belief create the world. I won't lift a finger because they already exist. They have always existed. You and I have descended in consciousness to this level where we are now because we came down like this. Our eyes are full of imperfections. Although our bodies are here in the three-dimensional world, as our consciousness begins to rise, we find ourselves transported into a completely different environment with completely different friends and in a completely different world. Even while still living here, you've probably heard the truly great declaration: I am in the world, but not part of the world. Rather than trying to change your environment, I hope you become one with your ideal state. What would it feel like if your gaze were so pure that you could see nothing impure? Everything approached you purely, and no condemnation was possible? If you contemplate that ideal state and become one with it, you will ascend to the point where you possess your original life as Christ. You still exist in a state that existed before the world existed. The only thing that will fall is the idea of self. You see what is, without a single flaw as broken. I am seeing things through distorted eyes. Right now, you are like a person standing in front of a mirror that makes you look grotesque and sees an elongated version of yourself. But they are the same person. Or maybe you're standing in front of a big, fat-looking mirror, looking at your reflection. Because humans appear as they perceive themselves. We are currently seeing a distorted version of ourselves. Play with the idea of perfection. Don't ask anyone for help. But instead, let the prayer in John 17 become your prayer. Take what was yours before the world existed. Nothing is lost except the son of perdition. Realize the truth contained in the words. Nothing is lost on my sacred mountain. If you have lost anything, is the belief that you will lose it. The son of perdition. And for their sake I sanctify myself. And they also shall be sanctified through the truth. John 1719. No one needs to change. You just have to change your ego. All that is needed to make this world sacred is to make yourself sacred. If you firmly establish in your mind's eye that you are lovable, then what you haven't lost will no longer be in your sight. The truth I speak of is deeper than any knowledge in the world. It takes courage, tremendous courage, to uphold this truth. Because many people, even after hearing this truth tonight, will still try to blame others when they find themselves in trouble. If you want to comfort someone, what feelings naturally come to mind? I am sure I'll reach out to him. I'll meet a friend and just naturally hold his hand or put my hand on his shoulder. Imagine meeting a friend you really like after a year. What action will you take? I'll probably hug him. Wouldn't that be so? Or would I hold his hand tightly? After you have brought him close enough to hold his hand in your imagination, feel him as a solid reality. Limit your actions to just this. If you try that, you'll be amazed at what happens next. From then on, things around you start to move. Your dimensionally greater self will invoke all the thoughts and actions necessary to bring about a physical encounter with it. That's how the law works. I go into a sleep-like state every day. It's very easy to do this, but habit is the most curious thing in the human world. Even though it is not a law, it acts as if it were the most irresistible law in the world. We are products of our habits. Did you know that? If you go into a sleep-like state at a certain time every day, say 3 p.m., you will go into a sleep-like state every day. At that time, try it for a week and check if I am right or wrong. To achieve a sleep-like state, first, sit or lie down, but do not pour out too much, and just relax until you feel sufficiently relaxed. Try doing it at the same time every day for a week. No matter what you're doing, you'll find hard to keep your eyes open at this hour. If you knew when you would be free like that, then you could create. Just don't take practice lightly. Just because it's light doesn't mean it's ineffective. I always feel sleepy around this time. There are other ways to pray besides this. First, prepare a comfortable armchair. Sit on it or lie down on the floor and relax very comfortably. Your posture should be comfortable, and avoid any positions that cause you to feel pressure. This creates the most comfortable position. Knowing what you want is the beginning of prayer. Next, visualize in your mind one simple, small event that represents your wish coming true. I always freely arrange the various events that could follow when a prayer is answered, and then choose the one that seems most likely, like taking a shower or hugging someone. Pick something simple and small to indicate that your wish has come true, like receiving a letter or writing a check. After deciding on a scene that represents what you want to achieve, sit in a very comfortable chair or lie on your back on the floor to help you enter the boundary of sleep. Now in a sleepy state that feels comfortable. That is, you feel a calm state of mind. That state is one where you feel like you can move if you want to, but you don't want to move, and you can open your eyes if you want to, but you don't want to open them. If you feel this way, you can be sure that you are in the perfect state to pray wholly and actively. In this state, it is easy to feel anything in the world. After choosing a simple, small, and limited action that indicates your prayer has been answered, either feel it or act out the action. Whatever it is, it's like an actor playing the role he's been given. Get into the scene as if you were acting out a role. You shouldn't sit back and watch what you're doing. Take on that role and act out the actions yourself. This does not mean moving your body, but rather imagine that your greater self within the body is actually performing the actions that you have constructed. If it is walking, Imagine that you are walking. You don't see people walking. You have to feel them walking. If you're climbing stairs, feel yourself climbing the stairs. You shouldn't be looking at it. You should be feeling it climbing the stairs. When shaking hands with someone, you should not see the scene of the handshake, but imagine the person in front of you, and then feel the handshake. Your physical hand should remain motionless, but you should imagine your imaginary hand actually shaking hands with the greater hand within. All you have to do is imagine doing it. These may seem like fantasy to you, but they are actually happening on a grander level of existence before an event occurs. In this three-dimensional space, you are actually experiencing it. In the fourth dimension, you don't have to lift a finger for the fourth dimension to manifest into reality. The third way I pray is simply to feel grateful. When you need something for yourself or others, try to bring yourself into a sleep-like state without moving your body, and then feel happiness and gratitude. In that state, gratitude should indicate that what you want has been achieved. I feel as if my wish has been fulfilled, and I go to bed with this one feeling filling my heart. You don't have to do anything to make your wish come true, because it has already been done. The feeling that your wish has been fulfilled means that it has come true. You can use all the prayer techniques discussed here, or adapt them to your own taste. But what I want to emphasize is that I want to evoke a state of endless questioning. It is easy to enter a state where you can focus your consciousness without effort. If you want to pray successfully, let only one emotion dominate your mind. Now, how would you feel if you became what you wanted to be? If you have an idea of what you are feeling, close your eyes and immerse yourself in that one emotion, completely immersing yourself in that state. Then, a dimensionally greater self builds a bridge between the events leading up to the moment when the emotion is realized. That new feeling is like a young calf that is hard to ride. If I don't keep faith in that feeling, the little calf will throw me away. Every time you realize that you don't have faith in this feeling, you fall off the wagon. Train your minds to maintain faith in that exalted feeling. So ride and enter the city of Jerusalem, the city of peace with joy and triumph. This story takes place before the Passover festival. To get through the current state and into the ideal state, you must accept as fact the desired state that has already been achieved, and maintain faith in it. A firm attitude and a sense of accomplishment will make your wish come true. As you walk out with the mindset that it has been accomplished, sometimes you try to see if it is really happening, and then you fall out of that feeling of being a fool. If you stop judging like Peter, you will be able to cross the water. Peter began to walk on water, but soon began to sink as he began to look into his discerning heart. The sensory impressions we used to create, waking dreams are present, realities transferred into time, or the four-dimensional world, to create a waking dream. All we have to do is to rearrange the appropriate ones from a wide range of sensory impression so that they represent the fulfillment of our wishes. After you have decided on your dream, very clearly, sit down in a chair, relax comfortably, and create a state of consciousness similar to sleep. This state of consciousness is borderline sleep, but one must be able to consciously control the movements of consciousness. Afterwards, if this waking dream were objectively real, we would experience in the images in our minds what we would experience in reality. One thing to remember when applying this technique to change your future is that the only thing that dominates your mind in your waking dreams should be the actions and sensations that indicate your wish has been fulfilled. How imagination becomes reality is none of our concern. If you accept your waking dreams as material reality, they will find ways to fulfill their own desires. Let's recap the basics of prayer or controlled waking dreaming. I say it's too late, but I've used the law very precisely, rejecting it. Never accept anything that indicates a deficiency. When circumstances around me indicate a lack, I tell myself, what do you have to do with me? What do the evidence my senses produce have to do with me? Take all the evidence and fill it. In other words, accept it as fact that I have wine and everything I desire. Then, the great inner self within me inspires the thoughts and actions of all people to realize what I have accepted as fact. Enter into a sleepy state. However, the state must still be such that you can control the direction of your thoughts and pay attention without effort. Then I picture my friend standing in front of me. After you have held your imaginary hand with his imaginary hand and felt it as a solid reality, have an imaginary conversation that matches the action. Don't picture yourself far away in this space, celebrated for something far behind you now. Instead, think of the scene in that event as being here and now, and the time in that event as being now. What happens in the future is real. Now, within a dimensionally wider world, and strange as it may sound, the dimensionally wider world is as real as this three-dimensional species in which we live our daily lives. The difference between feeling like you're doing something yourself and seeing yourself portrayed on a movie screen determines the success or failure of this principle. If you picture yourself climbing a ladder, now you'll understand this difference. Then close your eyes and imagine that the ladder is in front of you and feel yourself actually climbing it. Thoughts are seeds and emotions are the energy that breathes life into those seeds. Immerse yourself in what you want now, even emotionally. Then, at that moment, reality is already moving